Good morning, everybody. Let's have a look at some of these charts. It was a big stream last night, probably one of the biggest streams we've had in a little while, which means to me, obviously, the more people that are willing to go onto something like my Patreon, the more likely it is that we're attracting a lot more retail than usual, and the more likely that we're going to see a lot of money get poured into these markets. So, long story short, because we looked at probably 40 to 50 different altcoins yesterday, and the vast majority, I'd say 90% of them, were ready for immediate continuation. We looked at a few other things as well, key things to suggest that we should be having one last move up now before a decent pullback, and that's where you'd want to buy the dips, really. So FOMO, don't FOMO. I know that some of these things might be down today, but for the most part, the majority of altcoins are still up. If it's not yours, that's unfortunate, but that doesn't mean that the altcoin market is not up. It certainly is up. Bitcoin, sort of, I suppose, ever so slightly down, but XRP pumping to getting ready to go to new all-time highs, I would say. So many altcoins looking pretty ripe for the move. But pullbacks will happen, and the average pullback size is going to be around 20% after this next move up. But that's my take on the market, right? That is my take on the market. So XRP rallying exactly as expected, and it is unfortunately exactly as expected this time. We were talking about this all the way back down here, looking to break out basically from momentum and money flow, and we said, look, we got the momentum breakout, we've got the money flow index breaking out, we just don't have the price action breaking out, and a breakout for us would have been above the 20 moving average or this horizontal. Last week we got above the 20. This week, well, actually last week, to be honest with you, I got above that also. So confirmed breakout, money flow, momentum and price. Confluence across all three, the most important things, and we are now brewing and getting ready for more or less an immediate new all-time high for XRP. Who would have thought it, eh? Who would have thought it? So with that, it should carry all of its best friends. If you don't know XRP and friends, they are XLM. A very good friend of XRP's, moving very nicely indeed, retesting this horizontal, looking ready for a new local high. And, you know, as I was asked many times last night about exactly where the highs are going to be for all these altcoins at their significant peaks at parabolic moves, which is something that you can't really answer, but in this case it would look very likely that a new all-time high will also be generated for XLM. Probably see that in the next month or so. So there's a good friend of XRP's. Another good friend of XRP's, Algorand, which is also having a nice little... I can't write this morning, which is also having a nice little pump of its own. However, the chart is nowhere near ready for a new all-time high. I'm reckoning that basically this is a bit of a W formation ready for a pump. A local high should easily get put in between 50 and 60, and probably the next big move takes you towards 70 cents, maybe. I'd love for it to continue beyond there to 180 or something like that, but at the moment I don't see any reason to think that. But that does not mean that it can't do a decent pump. Think about it. Alright, it started down here, ended up here. It's a 350% move, which, you know, it's my phrase. I like saying this phrase. It's not the crypto moves your granddad told you about, is it? But what it is still a decent move, and if you're going to pump and you're going to move up to those levels and you're going to do it within a month or two, you shouldn't really moan about that. No one's allowed to moan about making 100 or 300% gains. That you're just not allowed to moan about that type of thing. You know, if I hear the smallest whiff of disappointment over making hundreds of percent, oh, I will block you. I just can't cope with that. It really gets under my skin. You don't realise when you look out that window, I don't know where you live, it's probably not so bad out my window, but there's plenty of windows you could look out, even in this country, where you're looking into just terrible situations for people who would love to have 100%. They'd love to have 1% gain on anything that they own, and they don't. And there's you, moaning about 100, 200, 300%. Oh, this is terrible. Sort it out. Next on the list for everybody, for XRP's best friend, HBAR, which again, you know, is one of those good ones, isn't it really? H-bar, USDT. So a nice bullish chart, basically bouncing on a weekly golden cross, bang, all the way up. We've already more or less hit this horizontal this week. Once that's broken, the new local high, and to be honest with you, this is one of the better ones, a new all-time high. It would easily be set between now and September. Look, they're all going to move because XRP will allow them to move. XDC, we haven't looked at this one in a long time, but this also, USDT, this one also is pretty sweet looking chart last time I checked it. It's not as good as the others, it's definitely not as weak as Algorand, but it's certainly not bad at all. Golden cross retest on the weekly, similar to quite a few of those, especially H-bar that we've just seen. Looking for this one to start making its way back up. 9 towards 10, and then obviously 12, and then probably new all-time high between now and September. So look, at the end of the day, altcoins are the king at the moment. This is alt saison, as they say in France. And to complement the alt saison, we can see that we are now breaking down below the weekly 20 moving average. It's only Thursday. We've got to see how this looks Monday morning for confirmation. But we haven't seen this in a little while. The last time we saw it, we came down to and a little bit below the 50 exponential moving average, which, yeah, it's about 3% more drop on this one. The evidence for a top on this has been ripe since the overheated read, which led to the first big move down towards the Bollinger Band Centre, in fact, and then we started to get even more excited when we saw this double bearish divergence. So here is the next target. So there is more alt saison. And then once this, well, I say once, if this breaks, which it might, the next ones are going to be here, 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 here. If anyone remembers in 2021 when we predicted accurately the last Bitcoin dominance peak in the market, I was also a little skeptical about exactly which area it was going to bounce from. Remember, we saw dominance chart go from lower on the chart to higher on the chart than we have done this time. So you know how people feel about the dominance chart. It's going up forever. Thou shalt not ever go down. Can you not see right in front of your face? So, it was a little bit like that before. Bitcoin dominance, it will go up forever. Altcoins are finished forever. Oh, what happened? I was completely wrong. That was what other people were saying. But you do have to also have a little think about actually in such a bullish chart that has reached such significant highs, at what stage is it likely to bounce and maybe go back up? Last alt season we were talking about this area. Okay, it didn't bounce. Excellent, the party's still on. Let's go. Okay, this is a big support. Okay, maybe the party's still. Maybe that's it. Let's just chill out. Move back into Bitcoin just for a safety purpose. Okay, no, it's fine. The party's still on. And in fact, the party is on for a long time. Okay, came down here, same vibe. Protective stance. Move back into Bitcoin or sell. Okay, that's fine. The party's still on. Move down here. Let's be in a protective stance. So sometimes you do have to think like that. Now, this is very early on, so I don't think being in such a protective stance so early on is probably your best bet. But as we do approach major supports, protective stance. And what I mean by that is either sell into Bitcoin or sell to USDT. Just in the event that we get a bounce on this chart, that bounce could be a giant dump in the market, or it could be a rotation back to Bitcoin. Trying to overtrade between now and September might be a mistake, even for me. I trade. So I just want to put it to you now that whatever happens over this next month or two is likely to be pretty big for altcoins. And trying to get clever buying and selling in that period, you might cheat yourself out of some big gains. But it's not for me to tell you what to do with your money or how to trade. But I think we're approaching, well, we're already in the period of the market where everybody becomes a genius. Just remember, the genius really is about leaving this market with significant money, or just money at all, really, let's face it, just with profit. And it's not about making sure that you sell the absolute peak, buying the absolute low, and buying every last little dip in between. The genius is, I made money in this market, and you can't say that about everyone. In fact, being an influencer, if you want to call me that, I am in contact with a lot of people. And there's a very common theme. People do what's called as a round trip in crypto. And they hold and they never sell. And they have to go through a whole other cycle before they even get a chance to sell. And I don't want to see or hear that again. So I'm not going to prescribe to you what to do with your money. But I do want to let you know that we likely are ending at least a period of significant gains soon. You've got to have a think about how you're going to exit those positions. But it's not for me to hold your hand and tell you how to do it. But you need to think about when and how you are going to do that, because it won't go up forever, despite what those other YouTubers might be saying, or those other popular TikTokers or whoever. Just make your own plan, right? And be realistic. Markets don't go up forever, and crypto markets certainly do not go up forever. Right, I'll leave it with you there. Thank you. Take it easy. Maybe I'll see you on the Patreon. Click on the links in the description below. Have a nice day.